Election coverage is brought to you by Chef Lee Restaurant, offering an extensive takeout menu of fine Cantonese, Mandarin, and Szechuan cuisine, all prepared with 100% vegetable oil and no MSG. Located at 358 Washington Street, Winchester.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to WinCam's live coverage of Decision 2005, our Winchester town elections. My name is Alan Iden. I want to welcome you to our program tonight, live from the WinCam studios. And once again, joining me here is Alan McDonald, WinCam's political analyst. Alan.
Great to be with you again.
Nice to be here.
One of my favorite nights of the year.
It is, and mine too.
Great.
The Alan and Alan show, as we've heard it referred to. As you know, it is 8 o'clock and the polls are just closing. We're expecting probably a fairly light turnout in view of the lack of really contested races here. So we're going to go over to Town Hall in a moment. Kim Whitaker is going to be joining us there with some interviews, and we'll be with her in a few minutes. But meantime, let's recap what we've got here, what our election has for contested and mostly uncontested races.
Well, we have two contests. We have two candidates for one seat on the Board of Assessors, and we have four candidates for two seats on the Planning Board. So those are going to be very interesting to watch. We had a 50% turnout last March in town election. We had a 58% turnout in the special override election last December, only 4 months ago. So very good turnouts for those. I think there'll be a little less turnout today because we've had those major issues. This is the first time in 5 years we haven't had an override on the ballot in March. We had an override in March of 01, 02, 03, and 04, and that brought the voters out quite a bit, both for yeses and for nos. And that's not on the ballot this year. We had two questions for a wine and liquor store and a wine and malt shop situation last year, and those passed overwhelmingly, actually, but again, issues that brought people out to vote.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know from my experience, I was about the 160th voter in my precinct, and that was about 3:30 in the afternoon. So
yeah, I was
very light turnout, very quiet there.
Only about 10% or so at 4 in the afternoon. So we'll see how we do.
Why don't we take a moment and we'll go over to Town Hall. Kim Whitaker is going to join us here, and she'll have some interviews. Kim, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Alan. Hi, this is Kim Whitaker. I'm at the Selectman's office at Town Hall with the WinCam crew, and we're expecting a few of the candidates to stop by tonight to talk to us about the race, and we'll look forward to bringing you some of their comments live. Back to you, Alan.
Very much. We look forward to hearing those interviews as we go on with our election coverage here. So let's talk about what's not being contested. We talked about those contested races, but awful lot of them just up for grabs.
Well, of course, at the top of the ballot, our moderator, John Sullivan, is on the ballot again. He has been elected to townwide office since 1968. This will be his 38th year in a row of holding town office. He was 9 years a selectman and then into the moderator's seat. But John is unopposed. And running for selectman, Brian O'Connor is running unopposed to fill that seat that Betsy Krager is vacating. And Brian was a leader last year in the move to oppose the override and has been very outspoken about opportunities to control the budget and manage town government. And it'll be interesting to speak with him tonight and also to be watching and working with him over the next 3 years as he sits in the select.
And it's a good example of putting your money where your mouth is.
That's
you know,
right.
If he felt there were some changes to be made in the town government, felt that it could be run more efficiently, and now he's going to have a chance to actually put his words into action.
Yeah, it's going to be would be a challenge, of course, and we'll have a chance to talk to him later on this evening. We're looking forward to that. Board of Health is an unopposed seat that Richard Maggio is running for his second full term. Richard Maggio succeeded Randy Schwartz on the Board of Health when Randy died, unfortunately, in the middle of a term on the Board of Health, and Richard has filled in admirably, and he was appointed in 2001 to fill the end of Randy's term, and then elected to a full term in '02, and now again a second full term, but that's an unopposed seat. And as we go down the ballot, Planning Board, we'll talk about that, but that's where we do have a contest. On the school committee, we do not have a contest. We have Mark Feblowitz having stepped down from his seat, and Michael Schindelman is the unopposed candidate to fill that seat, and we expect we'll have Michael Schindelman in here tonight also to talk a little bit about his background, his interest in the school committee, and his own plans as he goes ahead. So that'll be pretty good. And then library trustees are also unopposed. That's two seats up for election. Denise Doherty Pappas is running for her second full term on that, and Matthew Toomey is running for his first full term for that, with Jennifer Clifford having stepped down, retiring after one full term on the Library Board of Trustees. So the only other one is the Housing Authority at the end of the ballot, and Jim Scahan is running for his third full 5-year term. Bless him, and it's done great work on the Housing Authority, and he's served 10 years already, and he's running for his third full term there. And Ann Bailey Berman is also running for 1-year term to fill the last year of Alice Warren's seat. Alice retired last year, and Ann Bailey Berman was appointed to fill that seat, and now is running for the 1 year, and then would be up for a 5-year term next year if she chooses to go forward. So those are our unopposed on the ballot, and then of course we will have contests in the Board of Assessors and the Planning Board.
We'll be looking at the assessors, where George Anderson is running for which term is this?
Well, George has had 8 full terms in the assessors. He actually had stepped down and to not be elected going back 2 years now, but when Mark Lombardi passed away, Mark was in the middle of his term, and George was unanimously appointed by the 2 assessors and the 5 selectmen to fill that seat. George actually has served with 13 other assessors during the course of his terms on the Board of Assessors, and so he's running. And Robert Herndon is running against George Anderson, or George against Robert, I should say, either way. But Robert Herndon is a past president of the Kiwanis Club in Woburn, but a Winchester Public Schools graduate, active in both communities, has owned and operated a construction company for a 25-year period, actually, and he's a licensed broker of real estate and insurance, and understands, as George Anderson does, the housing market, and so has offered himself for this position.
I don't know I haven't heard whether Mr. Herndon is coming down here tonight.
I don't know. I
so
think that it's possible that Mr. Herndon will be at Town Hall with Kim Whitaker.
I am actually told that he is planning
good.
to come down
Well,
here,
that's
so
gonna be good. Yeah.
we'll get a chance to
Excellent.
speak with him. And of course, the Planning Board is probably the contest.
Planning Board, I think, is the contest. Had very, very good discussion during the campaign through the League of Women Voters, and all 4 candidates seeing a need for the master plan to be updated. 2, in a sense, newcomers to the town government and political scene, and 2 seasoned folks in the town activities. Peter Van Aken, who's a past chairman of the Capital Planning Committee, past chairman of the Board of Selectmen, very active over the years in town meeting, is running to fill one of the 2 seats in the Planning Board. And Lance Grenzerback, who's a lifelong Winchester resident, well-known in town, not having been active in town government.
I was going to ask you that, yeah.
But being active in town affairs, so fairly visible and well-known, I think, to a number of the electorate. And 2 very good candidates who haven't had quite that opportunity. Brendan Driscoll, who moved to Winchester half a dozen years ago and owns his own electric company in Medford, as an electrical contractor, and a young family, very active in youth activities in the community. Gary Connors, who's been a resident for longer, about 13 years or so, as a project manager for a construction company as well, and very familiar, both of these gentlemen, with the development, planning, construction aspects that the Planning Board would deal with. And also Gary Connors is active in youth activities in town as well. So You've got a couple of young people. We love to see young people become active in town government. Here are a couple of good candidates there against a couple of older, more veteran active people.
Careful.
Well, they're almost as old as I am. That's the problem. Yeah, that's right. But a good field, and people who've shown an interest, and it'll be interesting to see how the electorate responds.
We should point out that for those few people out there that don't know you, that you've sort of served a few terms in town government,
I
too.
was lucky enough to have the people support me a few times out, and I enjoyed it quite a bit.
And how long as town meeting member?
Oh, I guess 25 plus years.
As town meeting member, and how many years on the Board of Selectmen?
Just a half a dozen. I
Just
was
half a
very,
dozen.
very
Just
lucky to
half
be
a dozen,
there.
a mere half a dozen.
1980 to 86, so we've come a little bit away since then. Fortunately, some very, very good people having served on that board. We lost Ed O'Connell this year. We'll talk a little bit about who's retiring and who has gone out, but Eddie O'Connell, who served 9 years on the Board of Selectmen, I was fortunate to serve 5 years with Ed, but Ed also served on the library trustees for 7 years or so and 15 years on the school committee. I tallied up the number of people who served on the school committee and the selectmen and the library trustees during Ed's 31 years. There were about 62 people.
Served on boards with him.
Yeah, who, or served on the board, during his time, the 31 years. So,
Yeah.
and not all of them served with him,
Oh,
but,
I see,
but in a
okay.
sense, there were 22 people who served
Who
on the Board of
basically worked with
Selectmen,
him.
24 on the school committee during that period, and not all of them at the same time with Ed during his terms, but during the time that Ed held town-wide office,
Yeah.
they all served. And so Ed had a lot of good friends and did a lot of work.
You're
and
active in Veterans Affairs. too,
super
in the
active
town.
in
Yeah.
Veterans Affairs, and the only reason I mention that big number is because he's one man serving through those 31 years when all these other people are doing a little bit at a time, but he did a great job.
He was a remarkable man.
That's right.
We'll miss his wit and wisdom at town meeting, too.
Well, we sure will. Do I have time to mention one other historical note that I think is
certainly
really
do.
important
Yes.
for the voters? This will be, as we enter town meeting in May, the 25th anniversary of Carolyn Ward's becoming town clerk in the town of Winchester. And it's a remarkable thing, and not just for Carolyn's term, but when we look back at the last almost 100 years, we've had stalwart representation in the town clerk's office. We in Winchester, when Mabel Stinson was made town clerk, I got to tell the story because some people may not know it. We had the first woman town clerk in New England in the town of Winchester. And Mabel Stinson was working in town hall in the town clerk's office when the town clerk was ill and she was made acting town clerk at the time the women's suffrage was coming along in 1920. And some people felt that was too bold of a move, but she was actually then appointed by the selectmen to be town clerk, but needed permission of the state legislature to have it happen. And
She was a woman.
they eventually got the permission because she was a woman. But she became town clerk. While her appointment was pending, we had an acting town clerk. But since the 1920s, then till 1957, Mabel Stinson and her sister Helen for a couple of years, 3 years afterwards, and then Elsie Nelson. Elsie Nelson from 57 till 1980. So in a sense, go back to 1920, 4 town clerks, one of them only for 3 years. Fantastic history, and all of them, Elsie and Mabel Stinson and Carolyn Wood, have been leaders statewide of the Town Clerks Association. So, and one more interesting thing, Carolyn, where does Carolyn live but in the same house that Mabel and Helen Stinson lived in when they
didn't know
were
that.
town clerks? Yep, so Carolyn knows it so well. But that's a piece of history that's really unique to Winchester, and the fact that we've had such a steady bit of leadership in town hall and the town clerk's position, and that we had led the way in bringing women into public office, because when we got over the appointment process, we elected our town clerk for a number of years prior to the town charter. When the town charter came in 1975, the town clerk then was appointed by the town manager. But prior to that, elected by the town. So Mabel Stinson was elected by the town, Elsie Nelson by the town, and
In an area of women's suffrage.
yeah, right afterwards, right immediately thereafter, right?
Yep. And now we also have John Sullivan with his, which term is this?
Well, John became first
As
elected to the town moderator position 9 years after 1968, so 77. So this will be, that's 23 plus 5, 28 terms in a row. So that's,
So 20,
this will be the
if you
29th.
tune into town meeting,
Yep.
as we hope a lot of people do, you've seen the two of them on
That's
the
right.
stage,
That's right.
essentially for 25
Oh,
years.
it's exactly right.
Yeah.
It has-
Carolyn Ward is the town clerk, and John Sullivan is the moderator on the stage of our Winchester town
that's,
meeting for 25 years.
25 years, correct,
Yeah.
yeah. And, you know, and John actually came on 3 years, became the moderator 3 years before Carolyn was appointed clerk. Yeah, that's right. So anyway, that's a great, it's a great bit of history, and we are proud of it. And I mention it because there may be some voters that aren't aware of that history and even the length of service that Carolyn's given us, which has been outstanding, really phenomenal.
It has been. It has been. She's remarkable and a pleasure to work with
Oh, mercy,
over
yeah.
the years. Why don't we talk about our town meeting? You know, since we've sort of segued into the town meeting there, let's talk about what we have for races or lack of them in the different precincts. Precinct 1, we have 8 for 8. Eight candidates for 8 positions.
We have 8 for 8 in Precinct 1, and we have some retirees. I should say, normally every year, and for people that don't know the numbers in town meeting, we have 24 per precinct out of 8 precincts. So we have 192 town meeting members. And every year, the average is about 20 new town meeting members cycling in. So it's about 11% of town meeting turns over every year, and it's amazing how consistent that is year in and year out. In this particular year, we have 85 candidates for 67 seats. We'll go back to the precincts. But that would mean for, at best, in terms of incumbents, there would be 48 incumbents who are on the ballot for town meeting if they all get elected. But there are 67 spots. So you know, that means that there could be 19 new town meeting members at a minimum. And as I say, the average is 20. So it's amazing.
Right.
It's amazing how
Amazingly
consistent that is. But in Precinct 1, you're right. We have 8 candidates for 8 spots. And retiring, who were on the ballot 3 years ago but didn't go back this year, are Kathleen Montgomery, Mary Heffernan, and Julie Keene, who were elected from 2002 to 05 but didn't go back on the ballot. But 8 for 8. And in Precinct 2, what I think is one of the major pieces of news in this particular election, we're going to have 7 candidates for 8 seats, so we'll have 1 write-in in Precinct 2, but Mary Pronsky is not back on the ballot for town meeting this year, and that is an amazing piece of history for this community. Mary has been perhaps, if not the longest serving town meeting member, certainly one of them. I mean, Mary, who was chair of the school committee back in the 1970s, active in town meeting for many years, certainly all through those years and since, and active on so many issues at town meeting. But Mary, who would have been back on the ballot in 2005, did not go on, and Norman Doucette did not go on, and Norman has been, of course, active, the family has been active in the town for so long, and Norman is familiar to all of us. All of those who frequent the transfer station have to know Norman pretty well, and he's done a great job there. So he's not back on the ballot because he's actually moved out of Precinct 2 this year and didn't go back on. And we lost Frank Lambiers. Frank passed away, and he would be on the ballot. This is his year to be on the ballot, so we lost him. So those are big changes in Precinct 2, really. In my opinion, and that's pretty much major news for the town meeting stuff.
And I have to confess, I wasn't aware that Mary Pronsky wasn't back. Do we know why?
Oh, I actually didn't talk to Mary about it. I should have, just to get her feelings on it. But she'd be a great interview. I'll say that right now for here and for the press to talk to Mary about her years in town government. Yeah. And I think she's maybe feeling like she's done a pretty good job, and it's time for a rest for a year or two.
A well-deserved rest.
That could be.
We will miss her.
We sure will. But she'll be here around too, I know.
We would miss her. As a matter of fact, if she's watching tonight, she just lives around the corner,
That's right. Come on down.
We'll issue an
Come on
invitation
down.
that we'd actually like to have her come down here.
Time
so.
tooting, that's exactly right. Mary, if you hear me, come on down.
Mary, if you're listening to us, we'd love to talk to you.
In Precinct 3, interestingly enough, Josh Alper would be back on the ballot for Precinct 5, but he's not on Precinct 5. He's one of the ones missing from there, but he's on the ballot for Precinct 3. So Josh moved during the course of the last election period.
He did, didn't he?
Yep, so he's now on 3. But we have 10 candidates for 8 spots in Precinct 3. The reason I mentioned Josh is because when I looked at the ballot first, I said, gee, where is he? He's not in Precinct 5, and then I found him. But
as you say, I'm looking here, and he's a non-incumbent.
There you go, non-incumbent.
In Precinct 3.
Have to start from scratch with those
right.
Precinct 3 votes. Precinct 4, Alan, we have a large field, actually, for the 8 seats there. And the major retirement from town meeting, at least for this election, is Leslie French. And Leslie's been a mainstay in town meeting for all the years that I've been there, actually. And so we're going to miss Leslie quite a bit, but she's not back on the ballot this year. But we do have, I believe, some 13 candidates for 8 spots in Precinct 4. In Precinct 5, we have 9 candidates for 8 spots, 1 for a 2-year term and 2 candidates for a 1-year term. But we lose in Precinct 5 Eddie O'Connell, as I mentioned, and Sandy Rogers passed away during this term. Sandy would be back on the ballot this year if she were with us. And we have to stop for a second and say Sandy Rogers was such a major part of this program for so many, many years, and a big fan and supporter for the TV station itself. And we lost Sandy, of course, during this last 3-year town meeting term. Sandy was on the ballot in '02 and would have been on the ballot in '05 for Precinct 5. And Linda Pickering is a retiree from Precinct 5 this year, and Michael Bongiorno. So that's what we have in Precinct 5.
And I couldn't emphasize that enough. We miss Sandy.
Absolutely.
Sandy was a producer down here at WinCam for many years. She produced Focus on Winchester for quite a few years, and of course was very involved with our elections, both as logistically as collecting the results and also doing interviews from town hall. So we miss Sandy, and we think of her often.
Yeah, major player. And when I looked at the ballot this year and didn't see her name on it, knowing of course her name would not be on it, but knowing that this was her turn, I just had to mention that.
And I do notice that Ed O'Connell's name was still on the ballot.
Yeah, Eddie, when Eddie passed away, we had already filed papers, and so he's on there. And my guess is he'll get a hell of a vote.
Yeah.
Excuse me, he'll get a heck of a vote. I'm pretty sure of it.
I'm sure he'll be watching over town meeting, see who.
If I were voting in Precinct 5, I sure would have clicked the lever on that one. But I'm a Precinct 7 voter myself.
All right, Precinct 6, my precinct.
Yes, 10 for 8 in your precinct. You've created some controversy there, and so we've got 10 candidates for the 8 seats. I don't believe there are any major retirees from that precinct that I saw, but a good contest there. And 10 for 8 as well in Precinct 7. Wendell Wickerham is stepping down. Karen Anderson, Bob Cashin didn't go back on, but there are 10 candidates for 8 spots. And then in Precinct 8, Luke McCall is the one retiree that could have gone on the ballot this year but didn't, and 8 candidates for 8 seats there. So actually fairly active in terms of people's interest and continuing turnover in town meeting to keep a balance, which there is a balance of some long-term serving members, a number of townwide office holders who continue even after their retirement from townwide office, have been active in town meeting. And so it remains that you've got about a 15% number in town meeting who represent the longer term former town office holders who stay involved, but you continue to have the new blood, the new ideas come in, and it's a fairly active town meeting, as we know, and you do a great job reporting on it. And we sometimes spend entire evenings over 1 or 2 issues. So it's a lot of discussion, and some real good people, and they really care a lot about what's going on. So this is another good election for that.
We also tend to spend 2 minutes on some fairly major items.
Well, we do
We've been known
sometimes.
to do
But in those cases, we want to say they're so well prepared by the front of the town hall, by the office holders townwide, that we need not spend as many hours on those issues.
All right. I believe we're getting results starting to come
Oh,
in.
wow, good.
I think our precinct 1 results are in, that are coming up on the board, so you folks are going to see them as we see them
Okay.
momentarily, I believe. Okay, we're still working on getting those numbers, I guess, up on the screen.
Okay.
So we got a couple more minutes before they come in.
Well, if I could then, let me just say, because we do talk about the people who I just mentioned retire from townwide office, remain active in town meeting. Betsy Krager is stepping down from serving on the Board of Selectmen for the last 6 years. She was on the Finance Committee for 6 years prior to that. She was on the Capital Planning Committee while she was on the Finance Committee. But she served for 12 years now in a row in major active positions for the community, and she's going to stay active in town meeting. And we do appreciate the work that she's put in, but she's stepping down, and of course Mr. O'Connor will be taking that seat. On the planning board, we're losing 2 veterans. Peter Kuttner, who was elected to a full term in '02 after having succeeded Harry Sheffalo. We mentioned Eddie O'Connell, and we mentioned Mary Pronsky. Let us mention Harry Sheffalo.
Harry Sheffalo.
Tremendous service over a half a century to serving in town positions for a half a century. And he was a member of the planning board when he passed away in 2001. And Peter Kuttner succeeded him and then served a full term. Steve Parkhurst served 3 full terms on the planning board and has several other town positions as well. But a lot of experience there on the planning board, stepping down, and of course an opportunity for others to come on as well.
And talk about, for a moment, the issues. Apparently all the candidates agree on the fact that the town desperately needs a full-time planner.
Right. I think the differences in the discussions when the League of Women Voters was having the discussion, they all recognize the need to upgrade and modernize the master plan, but different emphases on commercial, industrial opportunity versus residential, the mansionization issue. There were slightly different takes among the candidates, some favoring more to see it being easier for commercial development than not. But I think all feeling that you do want to maintain the character of the community while doing that. But the differences were in the emphasis on the commercial industrial versus different residential situations. But they all were very keen on upgrading the master plan.
Upgrading the master plan. Like you said, the master plan is 50 years old?
Well, we didn't talk about the age of it, but I guess the last major piece would have been, well before the charter. And
I think I read somewhere that it was in the 50s.
We've done some things. As you know, we've had a lot of discussion at town meeting which go towards the plan in different aspects of the community. But that's right, not one master plan. That's correct. Yeah.
We've had the North Main Street plan and some of those village center concepts.
Right.
I think we do. I'm told we do have the results for Precinct 1.
Okay.
So why don't we take a look at the assessor's race in Precinct 1. And we see the incumbent George Anderson with 56 votes and Robert Hernan with 85 votes on Precinct 1. Awfully low vote totals.
Well, those are almost record lows. We'd have to go back many, many years.
130 votes.
Yeah, it's, when I said we were below 10% at 4 o'clock, this is below 10% on Precinct 1. Our precincts are between 1,600 to 1,700 voters, but this is very low turnout.
So now,
but so that doesn't tell us what the other ones are.
About 10%.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about, which would be
okay.
The lowest we've had.
Let's take a look at planning board
going
now.
back to the 40s.
We've got here, and with the pictures of the candidates, Lance Grenzbach with 72 votes.
Right.
Gary Connors 53.
Yeah.
Brendan Driscoll with 42. And Peter Van Aken with 109.
Right.
And I think the name recognition alone, Peter Van Aken, again, many years of service in different capacities. So Peter's very well known in town.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were saying. Is certainly Peter and his service as chair of the capital planning, chair of the selectmen, well known. And again, Lance Grenzbach, having been active in town affairs, not so much the political or government affairs, but. Right. We're very well known against 2 good candidates who are newer to the system, and of course, that's only one precinct, but yes, they did manage to.
Well, let's go to the selectmen's race, shall we?
Let's do that.
Joining us here is Brian O'Connor.
Brian, how are you? Nice to meet you, Brian.
Brian Callanine, pleasure to have you here. Brian is being elected to a term with the Board of Selectmen, and we're very pleased to have you here tonight.
Well,
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm very honored to be chosen as selectman, and hope to do the job that people want, basically.
Well, congratulations on being a candidate,
Right.
and then congratulations on being elected. We're very grateful for your stepping forward. I say this as a community member and speaking for the town. We know how much time people have to commit to doing these townwide offices. We love to see people get active, and especially, I know you were very visible in the past year on the override issues to talk about the management opportunities for this community and how you see it, and of course, that'll be the big challenge as we go forward.
I think you're right. I think that since that override, there's a couple other issues that have popped up that are even bigger, and as we go forward. I heard you talking about a town planner, which I think is very important, and the master plan being upgraded. As you drive around the town, you can see the essential need for that, with all the building going on and all the talk about what's going here and what's going there. I think people in the town really would like to know, what the master plan is, because they see things going up and they see new buildings and new roads being cut, and they just would like to hear more about it, I think.
How do you see your areas of interest? I mean, I know fiscally, because we talked about those things last year during the campaign period, but are there other management style issues or management issues generally that you would love to be involved in, and why you'd like to have this opportunity?
Yeah, well, I think we talked about one big one. I think that Winchester is kind of a very strategic town in the state of Massachusetts, and now with the completion of the Big Dig and so on and so forth, it's even going to become more important, I believe, geographically located where it is, both to the north and obviously into Boston. So, having that town planner, having that zoning thing is nice for the town, but it's even going to be more important as we start to grow the revenues and grow the top line in Winchester. So that's a key area. Another key area is the transfer station. I read about that and saw that, and I think I'm a proponent of keeping it and upgrading it and making it kind of a keystone of the community. Maybe make it self-efficient in some capacity, and I think there's a lot of things that this town has that I like to explore. We have a terrific fire and ambulance department, and where do we want to go with that? We got the West Side Firehouse, what do we want to do with that? There's a lot of good ideas out there. My expertise is really talking to the people. I mean, I've been in marketing and sales all my life, so I get most of my good information from talking to people. I don't come up with much of it. So I've spent the last 7 or 8 months, just getting the pulse of the people and find out what they need and what they want. And it's, I think the biggest thing they want is really accurate information. They pay a lot of taxes, and most of them live a long time in this town, and things are changing, and they just would like to be kept abreast. That's about it.
Well, your background, if I'm familiar with the comments through the last couple of years of your activity here, you've had a pretty good business background, so you're as you say, in marketing and sales and whatnot, but management too, I think. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I started when I came out of the Marine Corps with Procter & Gamble, and went to Polaroid and established a career when people had careers in corporate life. And I stayed at Polaroid for 25 years, and I ran worldwide sales and marketing for them. So I've seen a few spreadsheets and a few P&Ls.
Well, we can use the expertise, as you know full well. The leadership in the community saw a need for other revenues and presented that way pretty much unanimously across the board. And it's very difficult in all the communities. I don't think Winchester is much different than a lot of other communities in representing a tight budget. But the more expertise you can bring to the management of that side, the better we'll have the explanation at town meeting on those things and see how we do.
Well, Winchester is a little unique, as you two gentlemen know better than me, in the sense that it doesn't have that big commercial base like a lot of towns have. It does have, it is a beautiful town. I mean, and it's ahead of the curve in the way it spent its money in previous years, like the water department, the watershed, so on and so forth. So a lot of positive things are going on in Winchester, and I think all I'm trying to do is just capitalize on what the selectmen in the previous years have done. And that's essential.
Well, and it is true when we've looked at, through the Financial Advisory Committee to the Selectmen and other types of research projects on opportunities for new revenues, is very limited, you're right. And without a change in state law or an ability to raise money on an ability to pay basis more than the current 2.5 limit. But that's something that's going to be an ongoing discussion at the state level as well as here. And you're right, our makeup is different than other communities, but the tightness of the situation is similar here, partly because we don't get state aid as much as some other communities do either. And the state aid situation, even though we've had it grow as a percentage of our budget until the last couple of years when the state budget's been tight, we are considered by the state to be a well-to-do community and don't get as much state aid, even though we're limited on how we raise the money for property values rather than income values. But
I think that's going to continue in the future. I don't see anything changing other than the state of Massachusetts might get more revenue to share. And I think the Winchester's always going to be in that elite town status. And so, being the physical conservative, so to speak, tonight, I don't know what I'll be tomorrow, but tonight, that's found money. You really can't expect it to grow any greater than it did in previous years. So we got to look in other places to find that revenue and be a little more creative, I think. There.
We are tempted. We could go
on. Go ahead.
We could go on for hours here, and this is all interesting. And again, we thank you for taking the time to come down here.
I appreciate it.
I know that you're going to be putting in a lot of hours, as my colleague Mr. McDonald can attest to the time that's involved in that position. And really, I know the town appreciates the fact that you've stepped forward into this, and we appreciate you joining us too tonight.
I appreciate your time too, both of you guys. I appreciate
good
it.
luck.
Thank
and,
you.
we'll
Congratulations.
be seeing you during the next few years.
All right, be good. Thank you.
All right, let's move on. We've got some more results to bring to you. Precinct 2 results, I believe, are in here. If we bring them up on the screen, let's take a look for our assessors. There we go. Okay. Precinct 2, very, very close, 42 to 40. Again, very small numbers.
It's a very, very small number. There's no question about it. Slow.
George Anderson, the
Very, very low
incumbent, and
turnout,
Robert Hernan, the challenger, just edged out by 2 votes.
I know it, huh? That's something.
Let's take a look at the planning board in Precinct 2.
Robert Hernan.
Or let's go on to assessors
okay.
in Precinct 3. Take a look at that. We'll stay with the assessors race. And now we see the incumbent, George Anderson, well, substantially ahead. I say 20 votes. It's remarkable to say 20 votes.
In that number, it's
substantial
a substantial
lead.
number.
The difference, and when we saw the numbers from 1 and 2, Robert Hernan is a Precinct 1 resident, and George Anderson over in 5. Not that that's going to be a major piece in the campaigning here, but in a sense, if Robert Hernan was going to do well in a so-called hometown precinct vote, he would have done a little better in 1 and 2 than he did. So you would expect from that George Anderson would prevail as it swings over towards precincts 5 and 6.
Well, let's take a look at Precinct 4, see what we have for results in Precinct 4, again, for the assessor's race.
Okay.
Now we see a substantial difference here. George Anderson, 124 to 75. About 50 vote plurality there.
You would say, given the low turnout in particular, those would be very hard for Robert Hernan to make up. It's not in absolute numbers of votes, the difference isn't substantial, but given the low turnout, the percentage is substantial. So, and in a sense, George Anderson's home precinct hasn't come up yet, and he should do, in a sense, in 5 and 6, you should feel he would do well. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, let's switch races and go and look at the planning board in Precinct 2. Yeah, we see Lance Grinzebach with 43, Gary Connors with 28, Brendan Driscoll 19, and Peter Van Aken with 68 votes.
Okay, well, it seems to be holding.
Pretty
That's
close
right.
to the results in precinct 1, I believe.
Yeah, it's very much the same, yeah.
And why don't we move on to see what happened in precinct 3 with the planning board. Interesting there, Lance Grinzebach with 130. I'm not sure, is that his home precinct? or-
Well, Lance, yeah, it is. He's in precinct 3, and Peter Van Aken's precinct 4. The other two are precinct 5. So we have all 3, 4, and 5 precinct candidates here. But yes, right. This is Lance's home precinct, and Peter Van Aken's right next door in
Strong showing
precinct
there
4. So
for,
that's
in his
true.
home precinct. Gary Connors with 36, Brendan Driscoll with 53, and Peter Van Aken with 148.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to precinct 4. Lance
This is,
Grinzebach,
this is
135.
Peter Van Aken's home precinct. He runs away here.
Very
Yeah,
strong
yeah.
showing with Peter Van Aken in his home precinct, 224 votes. Again, absolute numbers,
Yeah.
not that high, but 51 for Gary Connors and 65 for Brendan Driscoll. So,
Yeah. And again, it would be pretty hard to overcome that given the low turnout. But so you see the two candidates who've had more exposure and more involvement doing better than the two challenges. I say challenges because they're the newer people involved in the town government picture, as involved as they are in youth activities and other things in the community.
well, let's take a break here. We're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we're going to be hearing from Michael Schindelman, who was elected to the school committee today. So we'll invite you to stay with us, and we'll be back in just a couple of moments.
Election coverage is brought to you by Chef Lee Restaurant, offering an extensive takeout menu of fine Cantonese, Mandarin, and Szechuan cuisine, all prepared with 100% vegetable oil and no MSG. Located at 358 Washington Street, Winchester.
Hello, I'm Kathy Judd-Stein, co-president of the Winchester Foundation for Educational Excellence. There are many exciting things happening in the Winchester Public Schools this year. Computer-animated music, anti-bullying workshops, and science seminars that take the classroom outdoors. WFEE raised private dollars to fund those teacher initiatives. To learn more about WFEE, visit our website at wfee.org or call our office at 781-756-8020.
The Winchester League of Women Voters is a nonprofit organization that promotes informed participation in all levels of government. We hold forums with political candidates and on issues like flood control. We register eligible voters at the high school, honor town employees at an annual lunch. Our members are women and men 18 years and up. Our activities are designed to fit busy lives.
Feeling disconnected? No time to get it together? Winchester Rotary is one-stop shopping for doing good, having fun, connecting with your community and the world. All this while having lunch.
Get in touch, get invited. Join us now. We're in the phone books and online at winchesterrotary.org.
Rotary. Connect with your community and the world.
Access is empowerment.
Access is technology.
Access is involvement.
Access is expression.
Access is community.
Access is fun.
Access is knowledge.
Access is democracy.
Access is free speech. Please be part of the Access experience. Contact your local Access Center for more information.
Winchester Community Music School is located at 407 Highland Avenue. With a faculty of 60 talented music educators, the music school offers private lessons, music classes for young children, small ensembles, free concerts, and much, much more. Hello, I'm Lori Russell, Executive Director of the Winchester Community Music School. I hope you take advantage of the wealth of opportunities that await you and your family at our home for music. For more information, please visit our website at www.winchestermusic.org or call 781-721-2950.
We are back once again with Winchester's live coverage of our annual town elections. Here live in the WinCam studio, I'm Alan Iden, and joining me is Alan McDonald. We have results coming in. We've reported 4 precincts so far. The results are coming in. We'll have them for you shortly. But joining us right now in the studio is Michael Schindelman, who's just been elected to the school committee. Michael, congratulations. Nice to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Michael, this is the first chance some of our viewers get to see you up close and personal. Tell us a little bit about your interest in the school committee. What kind of background brings you to want to be serving on the school committee?
Well, I have a financial planning background to begin with. I've managed multi-million-dollar budgets, projects for businesses. I believe some of that can help since at this stage we're currently really in a bit of a fiscal crunch, maybe crisis. I've worked in educational publishing, so I have a strong interest in just education as a whole. And I believe that can also bring some creativity, a little bit of fresh energy, which can be useful at times.
Well, that's great, and because we want to take the opportunity now to talk about Mark Feblowitz as having served on the school committee and done a full term and served well, and he's stepped down at this time and of course left the seat open, and you've come in, and we really appreciate your coming forward to accept the challenge.
Thank you. He was fantastic. Mark did a very good job. I've talked to him a number of times to try to get a little bit of input, some insights from him, get his sense of where things are heading and what he would continue with if he still had the ability to stay on the committee.
Tell us a little bit on the budget end of things, because you're right, there's so much focus now on the finances as part of the school program. It always has been, but in other years you've had a chance to talk about school programs more than just finances, and of course it's a combination now. The discussion that's going on about private contributions to make up for some of the lack of historic funding, do you see that as having any problems down the road of relying too much on private contributions?
Well, it raises some questions. Right? There's a sustainability issue when you have private funding, especially when it's funding positions, long-term positions. It's one thing to use private funding to put in a playground, to buy computers, right? Capital improvements that are generally one-time expenditures, and they're going to have some lasting value. When you're funding a teaching position or a librarian position or an assistant position, you need to repeat that fundraising year after year after year. I don't envy Dr. Marini trying to do long-term planning when that is one of his sources of funds. Now, if you use private funds in an endowment style, right, that gives you an ongoing funding. When it's used, here's what we raised this year, here's what we can spend this year, very tough to plan. Now, do I think it's good? Compared to having 34 children in a 5th grade class, if we can find another teacher, I would be more than happy to use private funding to help those children.
Okay, that was very interesting. How about in terms of the tightness in the budget, this might be too early because you're going to be up to your ears in this stuff very soon about deciding where to focus the limited resources, but are there certain areas in the school budget that you feel are the last ones that should be touched or that kind of thing? I mean, are there certain areas of emphasis that you see that we need to have even in tight times? Again, this might be early in the game for you, but how do you see us in the order of priorities, I guess, in the important pieces of the education pie?
Well, I think that we're somewhat influenced in the United States in the way our media is, that we always believe academics, right? The 3 R's is the #1 priority. But school, especially at a young age, school is about emotional development, it's about social development, it's about physical development, and it's about academic development. And you really need to pay attention to all those pieces. So can I prioritize one over the other? Forced to, absolutely. Do I think we need all? We definitely, we need to pay attention to all of it. We surely know of students where it was their ability in basketball that kept them active academically, or it was the fact that they were fantastic saxophonists that kept them involved in school and kept them focused in the right direction. And I don't believe that all of these, that music and art and theater and sports are all secondary to math and English. Do I believe math and English have a very high priority? I do.
That's something. Well, that's great. Well, I think you're going to do very well in getting in the middle of the mix. And there's a good balance. You're blessed, really, with a team on the school committee that has some long-term positions. You know, Kathy Bodie and Sarah Swager in particular, of course, have been there 3 and 4 terms. And then the newer balance that goes on there to bring some more energy into the picture and some new ideas too. So I wish you the very best. We really do. I mean, it's going to be an interesting time for you and a big challenge, no question. And I should have mentioned, Bob O'Connor went on last year and Sam Canaves the year before that. So you have Sam Canaves, Bob O'Connor, and yourself as sort of the first term folks helping out people that not quite as old as I am, but I mean, but that's great. That's great. I think it's going to be a good team.
And we appreciate you coming down here tonight and sharing some of your thoughts with us.
I appreciate you having me.
Congratulations.
Glad to be here.
All right. All right.
Thank you.
Michael, all the best.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to take a look at some of the rest of our results here in the assessors race. So let's bring them up on the screen now. I think we're going to precinct 5. Am I correct? There we go, precinct 5. What a call. George Anderson with 98 votes to Robert Hernan's 52 votes.
Right, and that's George's home precinct.
It is. Let's move on to precinct 6.
Almost 2 to 1, yeah.
You're right, almost a 2 to 1.
It is a very good vote for Robert Hernan. This is a very good vote for him. And
103 to 114.
That was the first precinct that went up, and it might be the first one that he got in the count. It's very exciting. Actually, he's doing very well. You know, for a first offering for townwide office, he's actually drawing fairly well, I would say. You know, and percentage-wise, it's just not a very large turnout in absolute numbers.
Right, very small numbers. Let's take a look at precinct 7 here. Precinct 7, 95 votes. Again, getting close to a 2 to 1 for George Anderson, and Robert Hernan coming in at 57.
Yeah, it's a comfortable win for George Anderson, but you know, again, I would say Robert Hernan shouldn't feel badly about the support that he's received.
Not at all. And precinct 8, results for assessor, and very close there.
Very close there.
George Anderson at 60, and Robert Hernan with 56.
Yeah. And I would have looked at Robert Hernan to do well in 1, 2, and 8, particularly just because he's you know, he's active in that area of town and is better known there perhaps than up in 5 and 6. But gee, he did so well in 6. You have to be quite happy with that.
Right. It looks like he's done a pretty respectable showing.
Yeah.
I do believe we're going to head over to Town Hall. There we are, townwide totals.
Yeah.
And very. Actually surprisingly close.
Yep, it's a good run by Robert Hernan. It is, especially when you've got someone who's an 8-term assessor. George Anderson, so well known through the years, and having been there, as I said, having served with 13 other assessors during his 8 terms, he certainly knows the route, and so he's done well too, as George has. But Bob Hernan did a good run. Yeah.
But I think we're going over to Town Hall right now. I believe Kim Whitaker has Mr. Hernan for an interview at Town Hall. Kim, you there?
Yes, I am, Alan, and I do have Robert Hernan with me from Forest Street. We were just talking that this is Robert's first race against George Anderson, who's never been challenged up until this point, and it's a 126 vote difference. Didn't go your way tonight. What are your thoughts about the race?
Well, I want to thank WinCam for everything they've done and the opportunities they've given me to speak, and the Chamber of Commerce. And I think I've tried to get the message out there, and it's been a fairly close race, but I appreciate all the voters coming out on a bad day and voting.
What was it that motivated you to run for this elected board?
Well, the last time the assessors came before the board, and the change they wanted to do in the tax rates for personal and business, I think it was very important that the board stayed that way, and I feel that Winchester needs business here, and it's helpful to the community and all the things that the businesses do.
And do you think that you'll run again now, Bob, that you've had a little taste of town politics?
I think I'll be back next time around for the assessor's office.
Great. Well, we wish you a lot of luck, and we thank you for participating in the race tonight. Alan, back to you in the studio.
All right. Thank you very much, Kim, and congratulations to Mr. Hernan on a well-run race.
Yeah, no, it was very representative, no question about it.
And a gracious statement there.
Yeah. So, but there's a lot of experience on the Board of Assessors. We have Steve Powers, on the board. David Arico, who came on, David had served a term a number of years ago and came back to be elected in 2004. And then, of course, George Anderson filled Mark Lombardi's term when Mark passed away, and now he's back for his 9th term on the Board of Assessors over a great span. He had 3 terms in a row, then he went off, 5 terms in a row, went off, and now he's back on again. So there's a lot of experience on the Board of Assessors. With Steve Powers having served on the school committee and the Board of Selectmen, and having chaired both, and spending a lot of years involved in town government at a real high leadership level, so we can be comfortable that the Board of Assessors is in good hands.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see. We've heard some reports of some, I don't know whether we call it negative campaigning going on in Precinct 6. I think Steve Powers may have taken some heat for his position on the winning farm up there. We don't have town meeting results, but it may be interesting to see what happens up there.
Sometimes it's difficult being a town-wide office holder and doing the precinct work at the same time. It's easier as a town meeting member to represent your precinct, even though you want to be voting on a town-wide benefit, but that's part of the precinct by precinct aspect of town meeting. When you're a town-wide office holder, you really have to look beyond a precinct issue, and I know that's a very emotional issue to the precinct, so that could be a tough one.
A tough decision. I don't know whether we're going to actually have results tonight on town meeting races, but being okay. I was just told we're not.
We're not, okay, well, so we won't. Occasionally we have, when we've gotten enough runners, and we've enjoyed doing the town meeting winners and losers when we've had the chance to, but okay, we don't have that.
Well, that could be an interesting result tonight, and I guess I don't know if we're going to put up the results later on our bulletin board, or but I don't think we're going to have them before the end of our program tonight.
We'll have to wait and
I think
see.
we're waiting for results for the remaining precincts for the Board of Assessors race. There seem to be some pretty clear trends going there. I don't see them reversing.
I think we saw the total on the assessors, but not the planning board.
Did I say assessors?
Yes. Well,
I meant to say planning board.
Did you say assessors?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I meant to say planning board.
I thought you did. See, this is not reading your mind very well.
But yes, planning board results.
There we go. We see the trend, but I think we've got 4 precincts to go in getting towards the final. It would be very difficult for the 2 younger candidates. I mentioned them. I shouldn't put it that way entirely, but the reason I do is because their background in town activities has been with the youth groups and with the youth soccer and hockey and all that kind of thing. And it may be that Peter Van Aken is doing. I'll have to ask Peter if he's doing much with youth hockey. I'm not sure.
That's a very interesting little backtrack there as you try to.
I'll have to think about that.
We'll talk to Peter Van Aken. I think we actually may be talking to Peter Van Aken at some point this evening.
When you get to be my age, you sort of think about it as old guard,
whether he's not one of the younger candidates.
Well, as I said earlier in the show, we love seeing new candidates come in and get involved in town government. We need that. It really is a lifeblood of bringing the new ideas, and we all had that opportunity 30 years and 25 years ago and that kind of thing, and have enjoyed it. And the reason I enjoy doing this show with you is because we can show, I hope, to some of the newer potential candidates how much enjoyment and value we put in the service that they do for town government. And if we can attract some more people to keep coming in, as indeed these candidates for planning board, well, we want to do that. And,
absolutely. Why don't we take a look and see what has happened in the planning board races. So let's go to our totals for Precinct 5 for planning board. There we go.
Okay.
And interesting.
Great piece there by Gary Connors. And both Gary Connors and Brendan Driscoll are Precinct 5 residents. So that's if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that's true. And so, yeah, that sounds right to me.
Once again, Peter Van Aken topping the ticket as a very well-known candidate in town. Let's move on to Precinct 6. And we got Lance Grenzebek topping the ticket there.
You can see those youth hockey
Actually,
and baseball
I'll take that
people
back.
coming out there.
I misspoke. Gary
for,
Connor's
Gary
topping the
Connors.
ticket.
Look at that. Sure,
Yep.
there you go.
Yep,
You got,
sorry about that. And Lance Grenzebek just behind, and Peter Van Aken running third in that one.
Yeah, there's a lot to make up from the first few precincts we counted, but there seem to be more votes in precinct 5 and 6. And now we're in precinct 7, and Peter still continues. Yeah, he's
Lance
a formidable
Grenzebek
candidate there.
and Gary Connors and Brendan Driscoll.
Yeah.
And moving on to our final precinct, precinct 8, and we've got 37. Peter, once again, commanding lead there, 80 votes. Brendan Driscoll 52, Gary Connors 51, and Lance Grenzebek 37.
Well, actually, this is a pretty good race. Peter Van Aken is the number one candidate here in terms of votes, but it really, when I look at how well the two challenges did, I think Gary Connors has to be very pleased indeed himself with the vote he had in 5 and 6, and Brendan Driscoll also, as I'm looking at his. Yeah, they did very, very well. But that's a difficult thing for having a low turnout to generate a lot of knowledge in a short campaign against people who are fairly well known going into the campaign. It's a big challenge, and I think that was a good field. They were all well spoken in the debate that was put on by the League of Women Voters, and all have background that would be beneficial to the planning board.
And I think as you said, not a lot of striking differences in their positions.
No, more difference in the backgrounds and the ideas, a little tiny bit towards commercial opportunities and that kind of thing. But all four having skills that would enhance the planning process, and two good winners that I think will be excellent for the community, and two challenges that I hope would continue to remain interested in town activity.
Well, why don't we're going to go back over to Kim Whitaker at Town Hall, who has got Peter Van Aken, who topped the ticket in the assessor's race, and is very familiar to our Winchester voters.
Topped it in the planning board race. Yeah, there you go.
What did I just say?
I don't know.
Hi, Alan. This is Kim.
Hi,
I
Kim.
am here with Peter Van Aken. He was the top vote getter tonight for the planning board race. He's got about a 23-year history of service in the town of Winchester, and he's got a new challenge ahead of him on the planning board. Peter, congratulations on the race tonight, and what are your plans ahead for the planning board?
Thank you very much. I appreciate WinCam covering this election. We have, I think, as I've indicated in some earlier TV shows and in some of the written material, a very important task facing the planning board, and that is to update the master plan. We've gotten a start on this as a community in the visioning process and in the development of the strategic plan, and it's time now to build on that, to codify, to see where we go from here, and then we will have, as a community, I think, a consensus against which we can measure some of the redevelopment proposals that inevitably are going to arrive at Winchester. I mean, we're going to have, as a community, a great deal of pressure to redevelop the downtown, to redevelop some of the residential areas, and I think we as a community need to be ahead of the ball on this, to think ahead, to plan, and I look forward to listening hard and participating in this on the planning board.
And you've got a very interesting perspective, having served in so many other elected offices in Winchester. How do you think that will help you in this new challenge?
I think it's important to have a mixture of people on the planning board, some of whom have a longer-term perspective. Steve Parkhurst is just going off the board, and he has a much longer service record than I, but I think it was important to have that kind of continuity. Dan Chain was on the board. Harry Sheffalo was on the board. I, in a very minor way, like to look at folks like that with long service, and I think there's an important contribution they can make. I hope to do a fraction as well.
What inspires you to continue to give so much of your time to the town of Winchester?
It's fun. I enjoy the folks. I enjoy the problems. Planning is part of my career. I've been involved in particularly financial planning. But at one point I was in college and university planning, physical planning, and it's just a challenge and a pleasure.
And is there anybody that you would like to thank tonight who helped to work on your campaign and ensure your success this evening?
Well, I think I have to say that the first person I asked for support was my wife, and she said yes, and she was agreeable to my running and helped a great deal, as did a number of other folks that have worked with me in the past. And I thank you all and look forward to a productive 3 years.
Alan, do you have any questions from the studio for Peter?
I don't think we do. I think we just want to offer him our congratulations and our thanks for his once again stepping forward in yet another position to serve the citizens of Winchester. Peter, thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, folks.
Well, again, a familiar face and bringing his expertise to yet another part of town government, and I liked when he says he likes to do it because it's fun.
Because it's fun. And over the years, that's been, it's surprising to some that you would hear that from a good number of people, but that is what we hear more and more from people when we ask them, why did you do it? They say, well, I enjoyed it, and I felt that we made a contribution, and indeed, it was fun at times.
I was going to say that I think there is a subtle difference between enjoying it, and that's the satisfaction of accomplishing something, versus actually being fun.
Yeah, it's not fun every moment, but when you look back at it, and Peter mentioned it, the relationships, we have been so fortunate in this community. We can point to hundreds of people who volunteer for different things, who've been major volunteers for many hours a week at one function or a number of things, and what makes this community go as well as it does, in my opinion, besides the professional leadership we have in Town Hall and in the school department as well, is the volunteer effort. I mean, it's just a fantastic, the level of ability that comes into the volunteer circle in so many different ways, and you do enjoy the relationships. That's what makes it fun. Yeah.
Well, we'll find out if the other candidate for the planning board,
Yes.
Planning Board,
Yeah.
Lance Grenzebach is over in Town Hall with Kim Whitaker right now. So why don't we head over there, Kim?
Yes, I'm here with Lance. Lance, congratulations tonight. This is your first official candidacy in Winchester, and you came out on top. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So,
to be here.
So how does it feel to now be an elected member of the planning board, and what do you see as the challenges ahead for this this new position?
Well, I'm very pleased to be elected to the planning board. I think it's a very important time for Winchester. We're facing a very significant financial crisis in the community over the next few years. I think it's going to be the responsibility of the Board of Selectmen, the town manager, and the school committee to make the sort of immediate decisions on how to manage the budget. But I think the planning board can play a much longer term role and a much more positive role in beginning to provide a sort of a general picture of the sort of situation we're in today and where we can go in the future. I think a lot of the decisions that we'll make over the next few years are going to depend very heavily on the community sort of looking at the balance of needs between housing, education, preservation of the community, development of the downtown, and the maintenance of jobs in a healthy business community. And I think the planning board can play a strong role in sort of laying out those pieces for the community and letting them see and basically participate in the decisions and in the discussions. So I think it'd be a fairly challenging effort.
Tell us about your professional background and the skills that you bring to this job.
Well, I'm a professional planner. Was trained in government studies as an undergraduate and then majored in city planning and economics as a graduate student. And I've spent the last perhaps 30 years working as a professional planning consultant. I do most of my work for federal and state governments these days, but in the early part of my career I did a lot of work in towns like Winchester. So this would be a good chance to get back into the kind of detailed level of local planning. So it's I'm very much pleased to be able to help the town now.
Great. Well, we congratulate you tonight on a race that was very well run. Are there any people that you would like to thank that helped you?
I would certainly like to congratulate my campaign manager, my wife Joan Grenzbach, who put in a considerable amount of time making telephone calls for me over the last week, and who's been a positive influence on my running for this office today. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for stopping by tonight. Back to you, Alan, in the studio.
All right, Kim, thank you very much. We were just having some discussion here. We've got a couple of precinct results in for town meeting members, but unfortunately We don't
Partial
have
results.
We don't have. Yeah, just
Partial results are in 74, 62, 33. But,
and you heard it here.
But if we had the full tally, we'd give it to you, but we don't.
Well,
have
again,
that.
I was looking for the precinct 6 results because knowing that there was some question, some controversy about precinct 6 and the Winning Farm issue, but we don't have the results, so probably we shouldn't probably discuss that anymore. And I was kind of hoping if we do get them in the next couple of minutes. I know we have precinct 4 and 5 here, and I'm not sure how we got 2 of those precincts for town meeting member results. And I guess I'm not going to find out either.
We have a terrific runner from precinct 4 and 5, but it's a further distance, I guess, to 6.
In our high-tech world here, yeah. I'm told we're checking the fax machine.
There you go. We're going to we're shooting for first-class high-tech. A couple of years down the road, we'll have all this.
Someday.
Better.
Someday maybe we'll actually tap into. I know these are all electronic and they're transmitted to town hall these days. Maybe we can hire ourselves some high-tech hackers who can get into that and get the results here before the town hall gets it.
You might want to tell the viewers about our first show back in 1926 when we actually were using the abacus instead of even the fax machine. We would get the results in at about 12:30.
We actually did have some long nights when, especially if there were things that were recounted or something.
Okay.
I think we are. I think we may have the results for 6 here. Just handed to me.
If we tease the runners enough, this just in. Okay.
Hot off the press. And that's very interesting. I'll share it with you first before we share it with the audience.
Okay, so we're looking at the town meeting votes.
Well, our
and the
boldface
boldface
ones
got
are
elected. And the interesting thing here is that our town moderator, John Sullivan, and our long-term town office holder, Steve Powers, as I just mentioned, Steve on the Board of Assessors and John Sullivan as our moderator, did not, on this unofficial tally, get enough votes to be re-elected to town meeting. And in Precinct 6, we had 10 candidates for 8 seats to serve for a 3-year term. And the 8 highest vote getters are Bob Johnson, Eve Coffey, Dave Leland, Nathaniel Brooks, Francis Sabatino, Joan Marie Segata, Tom Pappas, and Marion Crandall. And coming in 9th and 10th place are Steve Powers and John Sullivan, which is a major change in terms of town meeting. They'll both, I'm sure, be at town meeting. I'm sure John got reelected as town moderator, so I certainly hope he shows up as town moderator. But in terms of having a vote, that is historic.
It is. And again, as we said, I had heard earlier reports that I wasn't able to confirm that there was a campaign that was waged in Precinct 6 and by people who were not pleased with their Mr. Sullivan and Mr. Powers' viewpoints on Winning Farm, I guess, in particular. And we talked about that, but that is remarkable. Both people who are deeply involved in town government will not be town meeting members.
Well, it's an example, as we talked just a little bit ago, hearing that this might be a problem and now seeing the results, then indeed that is what happened. It can be difficult serving on a town-wide basis and representing your precinct at the same time and doing fair for both in the eyes of the voters from both ends of it. And easily, in this case, it's easy to see that the precinct didn't feel that John Sullivan and Steve Powers were representing the precinct's interests as well as the precinct voters hoped that they would. So that's democracy in action.
I guess.
Democracy in action.
I guess it is. Why don't we take one more look at our totals for the townwide, the contested races, starting with the Board of Assessors. And we've got those totals where George Anderson over challenger Robert Hernan by a vote of 666 to 540. And moving on to the Planning Board race, we see the victorious Lance Grenzebach with 700 votes, Peter Van Aken with 955, and the challengers of Gary Connors and Brendan Driscoll. So while Lance Grenzebach and Peter Van Aken elected to the Planning Board. And that's going to about wrap up our show tonight. We're going to take a quick toss over to Town Hall. We want to thank Kim Whitaker for manning our station over there and conducting a couple of interviews. Kim, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to welcome you to our election coverage, and did a tremendous job over there, and we appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. It was great to be with you.
Great. Thanks, Kim, for an awful lot.
And that wraps up, I think,
up
our coverage of our Winchester town elections here from the WinCam studio. Once again, I'd like to say it was a pleasure being here with you, Mr. McDonald.
It's always great to be with you. I really enjoyed it a lot, and I think what we'll hear about this election is low turnout. That's true, but somewhat on the back of the envelope, about a 10% turnout. But we had a 50% turnout last year. We had a 58% turnout in the December special election. There's still a lot of interest across the town in town government, and I expect we'll be jumping back up to a relatively healthy turnout right away next year.
Yeah, we have a couple of new people on major boards, new selectmen, a new member of the school committee, and some fresh faces on the on other town boards as well as town meeting members. So. Should be an interesting year ahead. I'll see you next month at town meeting.
Yes, sir.
And we'll bring that, of course, to you live. We also want to thank the people you didn't see tonight who are working very hard in the control room and in the studio here. You may have seen the back of Ed Colosi's head, but he's been there we go. Thank you, Ed. our resident photographer here tonight. So we want to thank all of you out there for tuning into us, and keep your televisions tuned to WinCam for this local programming, and support our sponsors. So for all of us here at Winchester's local access station, WinCam, I want to thank you for joining us. I'm Alan Iden. Good night.
Election coverage is brought to you by Chef Lee Restaurant, offering an extensive takeout menu of fine Cantonese, Mandarin, and Szechuan cuisine, all prepared with 100% vegetable oil and no MSG. Located at 358 Washington Street, Winchester.